Hello? 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 Are you hearing? Yeah, I hear something now. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I invite you to take a moment and enter into a space of rest, meditation, and quiet reflection as we begin our time together with the ringing of the gong and the listening to the prelude. Unitarian Universalist Church. Welcome to everyone here in person, everyone joining us on YouTube, both now and in the future. I'm Ruth Bradford Johnson, she, hers. The 2023 vision statement of Olympic Brown Unitarian Universalist Church states, "We are a welcoming, inclusive, intergenerational congregation rooted in love, actively committed to spiritual growth and social justice in service to our community and beyond. As Unitarian Universalists, we are brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We are diverse in gender identification, faith, ethnicity, history, spirituality, but aligned in our desire to make a difference for the good. Throughout history, we have sided with love, justice, and peace. We welcome you, your whole self, with all your truths and your doubts, your worries and your hopes. Join us on the extraordinary venture of faith." As you look around this morning, you may be concerned that you don't see the Reverend Jen Youngsun Ryu, who is to deliver the sermon. Don't worry, she will be joining us virtually. So if you need to find a better seat during the first hymn to see her, Please feel free to move around and find your best spot. And now I invite you to all into the shared ritual of lighting our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. While I read The Flames of Love by Reverend Kim Floyd Reich, Mylan, and I understand little Malcolm, will light our chalice. We light the flame of commitment to stand with and work to create change until all know they are beloved. We light the flame of survival, grateful for our lives, remembering and love those lost along the way. We light the flame of change, committing to recenter toward love in hearts, in minds, in our world. We light the flame of hope, loving each other, building community, even when it is uncomfortable. We light the flame of knowledge, following the path of justice, justice that is love embodied. We light this flame of radical love to speak out for those who have been silenced, those who have been rejected for who they love, those who have been persecuted for who they are, those who have been bullied for daring to be bold, those who have been othered and forced into the margins, those who have been lonely, those who have been hurt, those who are still hurting. We light this flame as a people committed. We are survivors. We will change the world until no one lives without hope, until no one lives without justice. We light this flame and pledge that in love, with love, and through love, all things are possible. Now, please find your teal hymnal and rise in body and or spirit to join in singing hymn number 1051, We Are. I'm going to get mine.
And now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart can come on forward. The book I'm reading this morning is, and I'll talk really loud because I can tell you don't have a mic on me yet, is What is Love by Mac Barnett. When I was a boy, in the garden out front of the house where we lived, I asked my grandmother, "What is love?" My grandma was old. I thought she would know. She picked me up in her arms and said, "I can't answer that." "Who can?" I asked. "If you go out into the world, you might find an answer." So I went. I asked the fisherman, "What is love?" The fisherman smiled. "Love is a fish." "A fish?" I said. "It glimmers and splashes just out of reach, and the day that you catch it, if you know what you're doing, you give it a kiss and throw it back in the sea." "But I don't like fish," I said. "They're slimy and taste bad, and they have creepy eyes." The fisherman sighed. "You do not understand." I asked the actor, "What is love?" The actor smiled. "Love is applause." Applause? It's the hoots of the crowd, the sound of their hands. You stand in the footlights while they all scream your name. Sometimes they throw flowers. At that moment, you exist. You are seen. "But the crowd leaves," I said. "They go home." The actor sighed. "You do not understand." I asked the cat, "What is love?" The cat smiled. "Love is the night." "The night?" I said. That sounded all right. But before the cat could explain, the dog chased it away. "Wait," I said, "stop. What is love?" The dog looked back and said, "This." I asked the carpenter, "What is love?" The carpenter smiled. "Love is a house." "A house?" You hammer and saw and arrange all the planks, it wobbles and creaks, and you alter your plans, but in the end, the thing stands, and you live in it. I said, "I'm not allowed to use hammers. Once I busted my thumb." "I don't mean a real hammer. I'm not talking about thumbs. It got busted really bad." The carpenter sighed. "You do not understand." The farmer told me love is a seed. The soldier told me love is a blade. The soldier told me love is a horse. But the cart driver said, "No, it's a donkey." A sports car, a donut, a lizard, a ring, the first snow of winter, a maple in summer, a grizzly bear, this pebble right here, these are all things people told me is love. I asked the poet, "What is love?" The poet smiled. "Sit down and I'll tell you," he said. "A list so long it goes on for pages. I didn't have time to listen to that." "Wait," said the poet, "I've not answered your question." "You sure haven't," I said. The poet shouted at me, "You do not understand." And so one day I returned to the house where we lived. The lights were on, I smelled dinner cooking, the dog barked gladly at me from a window upstairs, and I took off my shoes and stood in the garden. I curled my toes so they dug into the dirt. I sighed. I didn't hear my grandmother come up behind me. "Finally," she said, "you've come back." She was older, I was taller. She asked me, "Did you answer your question?" I picked her up in my arms, I smiled, and I said, "You." And now it's time for the message for all ages. We are blessed. We are blessed by being. We are blessed by being here. We are blessed by being here together.
The lives of our church, and the monetary offering is just one of these. Each month, we partner with a local organization and share the money we collect. Our offertory outreach recipient for the month of July is the Tiny Hooves Sanctuary. Tiny Hooves Rescue Incorporated promotes compassion towards farmed animals and highlights their individuality while rescuing them from abuse, abandonment, and neglect. If you're joining us on YouTube, you can head over to our website for more information. Thank you for your generosity to the important work of OBUUC congregation and our mission to support those in the community. Our morning offering is now accepted. Our thanks to Fletcher Paulson for providing us with our wonderful music this morning. The Presbyterians are having their annual picnic today over at DeCoven. So, our reading this morning is Summons by Aurora Levins Morales. Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers from 1,200 corners of the earth walked out into the gap, one breath deep, between the bullet and the flesh, between the bomb and the family. They told me we cannot wait for governments. There are no peacekeepers boarding planes. There are no leaders who dare to say every life is precious, so it'll have to be us. They said we will cup our hands around each heart. We will sing the earth's song, the song of water, a song so beautiful that vengeance will turn to weeping. The mourners will embrace and grief replace every impulse toward harm. 10,000 is not enough, they said, so we have sent this dream like a flock of doves into the sleep of the world. Wake up, put on your shoes. You who are reading this, I am bringing bandages and a bag of scented guavas from my trees. I think I remember the tune. Meet me at the corner. Let's go. Our sermon this morning, which is in 3 parts, was given at the Sunday morning worship service of the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association on June 21st of this year. And so today we join the largest gathering of UUs worshiping together. The sermon is by the Reverend Jen Youngson Ryu, who serves the UU Church in Eugene, Oregon. She was born in Seoul, Korea, and raised in Ohio. She found Unitarian Universalism as a young adult in Baltimore and was drawn to a faith that honors both the tough mind and the tender heart. This year, she celebrates 20 years in the UU ministry with a steady conviction that our liberal faith, practiced with honesty and love, changes lives for the good. And now, if I push the buttons correctly, we're going to join the Reverend Jen Youngson Ryu in the whole sermon, I believe, is called The Gap One Breath, and it's broken into these parts.
Last night, somewhere between the end of all we know and the faint beginning of something new, a dream emerged. 10,000 ancestors from all corners of the earth moved into a gap, one breath deep, into the space between all that has already happened and all that is yet to come. They carry songs, they carry stories, they are calling us to join them. These rich images come from Aurora Levins Morales, a Puerto Rican Jewish poet and activist. In those days, immediately following the October 7th attack in Israel, Morales struggled to find a way through the atrocity to something human. The poet gives us a summons to show up at the corner. But first, she invites we aren't just being self-reflective, we are strengthening the immune system of humanity. We are strengthening the immune system of humanity. Here is where we remember who we are and to whom we belong. Here is where we practice love as a response to the love that first summoned us.
So, if you can rise in body or spirit, we're going to sing Love Will Guide Us, which is in the gray hymnal this time. 131 in the gray hymnal. The next sermon part is titled Love Is, again by the Reverend Jen Youngson Ryu.
There was an extraordinary Cambodian monk named Maha Gasananda who survived the brutality of the Khmer Rouge regime. Later, he served in the refugee camps, and in one of those camps, he opened a Buddhist temple, despite threats from the authorities that anyone who attended would be killed. Still, on opening day, more than 20,000 people gathered. These were people who had lost nearly everything: families shattered by war, communities terrorized by violence, people who had suffered beyond what most of us can even imagine. And there, in that dusty square, Maha Ghosananda led them in a timeless Buddhist teachings. Hatred never ceases by hatred. By love only is hatred healed. This is the ancient and eternal law. Thousands and thousands of people began chanting those words together, not because love is sentimental, not because love is easy, but because they understood that only love could build a future worth living in. After the 2024 General Assembly, I came home and told some of my interfaith colleagues that 80% of the Unitarian Universalist delegates had voted to declare love as the center of our faith. One of them, who's and said, love is very abstract. It means 100 different things and it means nothing at all. And, religion has been preaching and teaching love for the last 2,000 years, but look at the way we treat each other. I know what they mean. I've heard that before from Unitarian Universalists, too. Love has become a cliche, a greeting card, a slogan, a marketing campaign, a word stretched so thin that it can barely hold any weight at all. Even when Dr. King invoked love, they called it emotional bosh, weak, sentimental, passive. And some of us have learned to distrust the word entirely, because the word love has been used to excuse harm, to silence truth, to avoid accountability, and to demand submission. But without an ethic of love, human beings start treating each other as objects, as obstacles and problems to be dealt with. A people organized around fear will produce punishment. A people organized around greed will produce trillionaires. But a people disciplined by love can begin to repair the world. This is why the poet calls us into the gap, one breath deep, before sending us out into the world. In this space, we remember our religious inheritance, a treasure carried by our Universalist ancestors who claimed that God's love was so complete that no one would ever be outside of this love, no matter what. And our Unitarian ancestors, who admired Jesus as a fully realized human being, showing us that our capacity for love is far greater than we can imagine. So, what do we mean by love when we dare to place it at the center of our faith? There are so many kinds of love in our lives. Romantic love can be beautiful. Love for friends and family can be deep and fulfilling. Love, as we speak of it in our congregations and in our practice communities, though, is a little bit different, because that love that we practice in those communities does not require fondness, affection, or any positive feelings at all. As the psychiatrist M. Scott Peck wrote, love is not a vague sentiment, but an intention and a discipline. He says, it is the willingness to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Sometimes that can look grand and heroic. Just as often, it looks like that couple who drives an elder member to church, even though it's out of the way and it's not so easy to coordinate, and sometimes it conflicts with other things they want to do. It looks like two people fighting as they're organizing an event and resisting the urge to turn away, willing to sit in discomfort long enough to speak honestly and to find their way toward new understanding. It looks like taking the time to get to know a stranger in need, learning their story, and welcoming them into the community as a full participant rather than an object of charity. It looks like making a personal promise to talk with one new person during coffee hour instead of huddling with their best friends. It looks like forgiving someone who hurt you because the burden on your own heart has become too great to carry. Love is so much more than what we feel. It is a discipline we choose freely and willingly for the sake of another's growth and well-being, including our own. My friends, I know that love is a word that carries many, many different meanings. Its power can feel fragile in the face of the forces gathered against us. At times, we may even doubt that love will prevail. Still, I am profoundly grateful to the Unitarian Universalists that we have not given up on love.
So now find that gray hymnal again. And please rise and body our spirit to sing together hymn number 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is also known as the Black National Anthem. And now for our final words by Reverend Youngstoon Ryu, Disciples of Love.
In a community that embraces many spiritual perspectives and seeks to draw the circle wider, love is our common language. It allows us to speak of the mystery we cannot name, the goodness of life that exceeds us, and the sacred ties that bind us each to all. As Nora said, flowers cannot bloom without the sun, and we cannot bloom without love. When you fall, love is what catches you. Love is the everlasting light in the dark. So, are you ready to be disciples of love? All right. Now, I know that talking about discipleship may feel unfamiliar in a Unitarian Universalist setting. We have seen how easily discipleship can be distorted when it becomes a cult of personality rather than a liberating path. For some people, the word disciple carries painful associations: control, hierarchy, the surrender of one's own spiritual authority. But the discipline and the discipleship that I'm talking about and inviting us all into is all about studying love. It's about practicing love. And it's about moving in the world having been formed by love. Every path of formation can reorder a life and give it a new center of gravity, because every discipline asks something of us. To be a disciple of love is to allow ourselves to be reshaped and stretched often beyond what is comfortable, especially when we are called to love our enemy. Or, in UU words, to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all, even of those who would use their power to deny that dignity to others. Discipleship is not easy, and yet following the way of love is what keeps us from being consumed by the very forces that we are trying to resist. Without a discipline of love, our activism will burn out. Our longing for justice can become untethered from mercy, and we risk becoming spiritually starved. I know what that feels like. When I returned to parish ministry after years in healthcare chaplaincy, I was so swept up in the busyness of the congregation and the urgency of meeting this moment that I nearly forgot the very practices that made such work possible. My physical health suffered. My mental health suffered. And this is why the ancestors, in their wisdom, call us into the gap, call us into moments of spiritual practice. Before we fill our bags with scented guava and bandages and rush out into the world, those ancestors call us to first gather in places like this, where grief is never denied, where joy is welcomed with abandon, a place where people return to the practices that shape them, where disciples study love carefully, practice it imperfectly, and when they fail, begin again, begin again. The world is weary of righteous, performative righteousness. Instead, this hurting world needs people who can remain human in inhumane times. It needs people who can tell the truth without surrendering to cruelty, who can resist despair without pretending everything is going to be okay. So, my friends, the world is calling us to the corner. So gather up your things, take one another's hands, and let's go together as disciples of love.
And now for the extinguishing of our chalice. We extinguish our chalice. The words are by Naphtali King. Open our hearts with love. When the world's violence shatters the joy of a moment, we pause and reach out for hands that remain. When despair rises as a monster from the deep and drags down one of our own, our answer is that we open our hearts with love. When hatred and anger rage in fire and suffering, we bend to pick up the wounded, to bind up ourselves, and open our hearts with love. When fear whispers, build more gates, add more locks, the blessed are those who defend themselves. We rock those fears to sleep and let them rest as we open our hearts with love. People who will do unspeakably cruel and horrible things, we know this fact. We live and die this daily, all around the world, in every community, in every wasteland. But we know the answer is found only with inaction, and so we open our hearts with love. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone can be healed. This is the truth we affirm. We live with courage and with a wider and wider circle of that force that bends our lives to ones of mercy, justice, and compassion. It's the truth. Just by being born, you are loved. There's something within you and every person that can be loved. In love, we pray for those families, those individuals, all the persons here and everywhere who are desperately sure that there's not enough love in the world for them to have some, who are desperately sure they do not matter. In love with life, in love with the beloved, we turn to answer that desperation with assurance. You are loved. You are lovable. We will and do love you. Now attend to your life's work, to love. It's the only legacy that matters. Amen.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that. I'm Gregory Mason. Time for some announcements. There will be a celebration of life service for Carl Hipp next Saturday, July 18th, here in the sanctuary. Visitation is at 10 a.m., and the service with Reverend Dr. Tony Larson is at 11 a.m., which will be simulcast on YouTube on our regular Sunday service link. There will be a reception in Erman Hall following the service. Carl's obituary is available on the Marsh Meredith website, in today's Journal Times, or via the link in this morning's email. The next deadline for paper raise right orders is next Sunday, July 19th. See me if you need a form or have one to turn in. Pastor Darren has been invited to return to Cuba in August to help alleviate the suffering caused by the U.S. blockade. The 8th Principal Committee invites you to donate the following supplies to help in this effort: mosquito repellent with DEET, children and adult vitamins, ibuprofen, aspirin, the 81 milligram, cold and flu medications, antihistamines such as Zyrtec, Allegra, or Claritin, disposable gloves, syringes and needles, and baby formula. This list is also included in this morning's Sunday service email reminder. You can put your purchases in Erman Hall on the table by the window. Please be as generous as possible. Thank you to our volunteers today, our ushers, Christina Mondragon and Pamela Smiley, our coffee hour hosts, Kathy Karabetzos, Suzanne Landis, and Mary Beth Zilke, our camera and sound tech, Mark Summer, and our cell phone monitor, Jody Spencer. That's all for announcements. Please join us. What? Oh, I forgot about that. I've been asked to tell the story of our collection plates. I don't know where they are. They're up there. Okay. Many of you who are newer may not know the origin of those plates. After my mother passed away, I wanted to honor her in some way, and we used to have baskets, wicker baskets that we passed, and I thought we could do better than that. And I looked online, but they all looked so religious. So I called Carl Hipp, and I asked him if he would take a commission. He said no. Why? What do you want? So I told him, and he said, oh, okay. He said, actually, I have some black walnut that I could use. And I was hoping Rachel would be here today. Oh, there she is, because I might not get this part right. The black walnut actually came from Rachel and Bob Trobaugh's yard. It was a black walnut tree that they had taken down. Now, I don't know how it got from your house to Carl's. I know the...
I knew Carl wanted that burrow that was underground for his work. And I called him and said, would you like that? And he said, sure, I'll come down in my van and pick it up. And I said, Carl, it's not going to fit in your van. Oh, okay, I will pay you like $50 to bring it to my house. So they were workers out in my yard who were building our addition. And I asked, would you like to earn $50 on your lunch hour? Oh, sure. Well, just take this up to Carl's house. And I gave the address, and they had all the equipment to load it on a truck and got it up to Carl.
So that's how Carl got the black walnut. Anyway, he turned 3 collection plates for me, and I in turn donated them to the church in honor of my mother. That's that story. Thank you, Ruth, for reminding me. I forgot. That's all for announcements. Please join us in Erman Hall for coffee hour. For those on YouTube, log into Zoom for your coffee hour. The link is in today's email. Yes, there is. Just no hosts.